Helen here with Eyes on the Game. I'm here at the MGM with the one and only Paulie Malignaggi. Now, great to see you again. I saw you at Manny Pacquiao's workout. Now, it is fight week, Pacquiao versus Broner. First off, what are your thoughts?
It's a fight that I'm excited about, and I think a lot of people have an opinion on this fight, and that's kind of what you want. You want fighters who raise people's eyebrows, raise opinions, and exchanges of opinions. I think at this point, people will say, okay, these aren't the two best guys at the weight. These aren't the two guys who are going to be heirs to the throne at this weight or whatnot, or of boxing in general. But they are two of the most polarizing, popular figures of the last decade. With Manny, it's 2 decades, So I think you have a popularity kind of fight, and those kind of fights I think also always generate well. They sell, and they're also two guys that are never really in a bad fight. Like Broner and Pacquiao, whether they win or whether they lose, people always enjoy the fight.
Yeah. Now, are you leaning more towards Manny? I mean, I saw some interviews where you think that Manny will win.
Yeah, I kind of hedge it a little bit towards Pacquiao because of the activity. Broner has yet to show that he can overcome the deficit in closing the gap on a guy that has, the good in and out movement of, say, a Pacquiao. But Pacquiao's 40, and he's been fighting for 2 decades, and he's got almost 80 fights or about 80 fights. So that usually will slow you down a little bit, your legs. So if Manny's legs are a little bit slowed down, and Broner can start cutting the gap and getting close. Broner's very, very dangerous at that close range. His combinations are very creative. They're hard to time. It's hard to anticipate. And so if you have him getting you at that distance, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I think this fight really comes down to whether Manny has his good legs. And if Manny does have any kind of good legs, then it comes down to if Broner, with Kevin Cunningham's help, has been able to modify his style to where he's able to work when he is cutting the distance and not just trying to cut the distance then work, because a good fighter will always meet you with punches in that middle range where you're trying to cut that distance. So you need to figure out a way to cut that distance while punching or while giving out some illusions so that you can get to the distance you prefer, which would be the close range for Broner, and then you can do most of your damage. A good fighter will never just let you walk in the front door for free like that, and I don't anticipate Pacquiao letting him do that. And so because of that, I've yet to see Broner make an adjustment in his career to those things. So for now, based on what I've seen and based on what everybody's seen, yeah, I think the pick is Pacquiao on points, because Broner's not the kind of guy that's going to just hand it to you and let himself get stopped either.
Now, if Pacquiao does win, what do you think is next for him? I mean, there have been some rumors. Would there ever be a Floyd versus Manny rematch?
I think there could be. Floyd, I mean, granted, it was not Terence Nasukawa, who is a guy 20 pounds naturally smaller than Floyd, but still, Floyd did look good. He looked like his punches were being delivered sharply in that exhibition or whatnot. So yeah, I think there's always the possibility of Manny or Broner, for that matter, getting the winner. I think that the winner of this fight is probably looking at the potential of a Mayweather fight. These are almost, I wouldn't say a sideshow fight, because these guys can still be dangerous at top contenders. I just don't think they can beat all the top contenders anymore, But I think they're definitely worthy of being in the contention for big fights. But I think more so than that, this fight is almost a sideshow in that you're looking for Mayweather, and Mayweather's retired. Fighting Mayweather, whether you beat him or lose to him, is not really going to make you the best anymore, because Floyd is not at that point where he's fighting to be the best or looking to be the best. In his time, he was the best, but I think at this point in time, Floyd Mayweather is not the best. But if he comes out of retirement, it would be sort of a show type of fight, and it would generate a lot of. It would be very lucrative for anybody involved, and a lot of people would be watching and be curious. So I think that from that perspective, that's what this fight brings to the table. It's almost a show fight in itself. Broner and Pacquiao are two very popular guys, regardless of what you think about them. And so the winner getting Floyd Mayweather possibly also generates that.
Now, you say you don't think he is the best. Who do you think are the best or is the best current boxer?
Pound for pound, I mean, that's really a matter of opinion, because the guys can't fight each other due to weight classes and whatnot. But skill for skill, pound for pound, Lomachenko to me looks like a very good, a very good candidate for the top pound for pound spot. But of course, weight classes do exist for a reason, and Lomachenko, the more he goes up in weight, the more beatable he's starting to look. But that doesn't mean his skill set as a whole isn't the most complete in my opinion. You know, weight classes exist for a reason. So eventually you go up too many weight classes and you're going to be challenged more. But it doesn't mean that the guy who may challenge you more was actually better than you. It may come down to the weight also being a factor. You know, that's why weight classes exist. So I think Lomachenko, as he goes up in weight more, the weight starts to become a factor. But his completeness as a fighter, I think that it makes him the best pound-for-pound fighter right now, with really great respect and admiration for a lot of other guys as well who could be in the Terence Crawford, of course. You know, Anthony Joshua starting to make a good name for himself. I don't know if he can be at the top, but he deserves to be on the list. You know, Golovkin and Canelo are in that conversation. You know, there's some good fighters there. You know, and sometimes guys haven't gotten all the shots to get a chance to be on this list. But there's also guys that are maybe trying to move their way up the list. Mikey Garcia. Errol, Spence, you know, so right now for me it's Lomachenko, but it's not, like I said, this is just an opinionated based question, so you can't really factually answer it.
Now, speaking of moving up in weight, and you just mentioned Mikey Garcia, what do you think about his fight against Errol Spence?
I think they're really two of the most skilled fighters in the sport. I think when you watch these two guys fight, I really think that, you know, even a fighter coming up the ladder can learn a lot watching these two guys fight. Their fundamentals, their balance, the way they leverage their shots, the way their hands are in position, great for offense and defense, the way they're attentive to both offense and defense, but yet they're willing to mix it up a lot to make the fight exciting. I think for a lot of reasons, this is a very good fight and a fight where, you know, people will get excited about it. But I think, again, weight classes exist for a reason. And as good as both fighters are, I really don't know how Mikey, who has very good power for a little guy, how Mikey's still going to be able to stand up to the fierceness of an Errol Spence, who is big and very ferocious for these welterweights to handle, for these very good welterweights to handle. So yeah, I think it'll be good for at the very beginning of the fight, but I think Errol will eventually, the size of Errol will eventually take its toll. And just like we've probably seen in a lot of other situations where the bigger guy eventually got the smaller guy out of there later in the fight, because I think the skill set almost is very compatible. They're both very highly skilled.
Now, someone that a lot of people want to see Errol Spence fight, Terence Crawford. It was just made official. He is fighting Amir Khan on April 20th. What do you think of that one?
You know, there was a time where I thought Amir Khan was impossible to box against. You had to always take it to him. And in his prime, I really believe he was that kind of fighter. You look at all the boxers Amir faced, and when you tried to box him, you just had no success. You know, myself, Luis Collazo, Zab Judah, Devin Alexander, just to name a few off the top of my head. Timing guys, he was very hard to time because he was very fast and he had a very weird style to him, and he was very rangy, you know, and fast on his feet and with his hands. So he's not a guy you can really time and have success with in his prime, but he's a guy that you can bully and make him push back and push him back, and then you'd have some success. Guys like Maidana or even who lost him, but it was a good fight. Bradis Prescott was punching with him when he caught him. Danny Garcia was punching with him when he caught him. They weren't really timing him. It was timing, but it was a different kind of timing where you're almost taking one to give one, you know? So smooth boxers, they don't want to do that. So they have a very tough time dealing with Amir in his prime. But guys who are more reckless and more willing to be reckless could catch Amir, you know? Still a very difficult guy to win rounds against. But I think at this point in time, what I saw in the Samuel Vargas fight kind of troubled me with Amir. You know, for the first time I ever saw him, I saw him from the stance position where both guys are kind of standing in front of each other in their stances, where you used to never be able to hit Amir from there. You know, you used to have to punch with him or do something. Samuel Vargas threw a 1-2 and from that position and caught Amir and dropped him. You know, and I stood, wow. I thought to myself as a man, I was like, he just got caught when the other guy led. He wasn't punching with him. He didn't like set it up or anything. I mean, he just got caught with a flat shot. I was like, and I saw that it was the Canelo Alvarez fight, but you could see Canelo kind of slowing Amir down already with the body shots. But in the Samuel Vargas fight, it was different because it was still early in the fight. Obviously, Amir gets up and wins the fight, but you're starting to see a troubling theme with Amir. Maybe age is catching up to him or his life is catching up to him. He doesn't have the legs he used to have. Still good, but I don't know that he's the same kind of guy. So therefore, why am I saying all this? Because Crawford is mainly a guy who boxes and times you. And I think a couple of years ago, this would have been some fight, and I think it would have been troublesome for both guys because they're both very good fighters a couple of years ago. But I think at this point in time, I don't know that Amir has the same things left in the tank, and I think that Crawford probably gets him out of there probably middle rounds, and it's not going to take him that long to start catching him.